the great Yoruba people will be featured on The Motivator Show. It's The Motivator here. And now you're here to experience another inspirational podcast. And welcome to you. Welcome. Can you help us out? We need to secure 100,000 new subscribers to the channel. Have you subscribed? Have you shared copies of links to this video with your friends, your network, the wider community? Help us to secure 100,000 new subscribers to our YouTube channel.
Bahashegu, and then doctor, before my name.
Okay.
Now, the Bahashegu tells you that I'm an Oloye, I'm a chieftain of Yorubaland. Bahashegu means, the full title is Bahashegu Alabe. That means a master surgeon. A master surgeon. And the doctor, the title doctor, is because I am a trained doctor. I qualified at Ibadan in 1973. And then since then, I've trained as a surgeon in the UK. I have fellowship of England and Scotland, the colleges of surgeons of England and Scotland, and also the colleges of West Africa and Nigeria. In addition to that, I have qualifications in law. I have qualification from Cardiff, LLM from Cardiff, and GDL from the Montfort University. I'm a retired orthopedic surgeon. I used to be a member of the General Medical Council. I was from 1999. It was that experience, in fact, that got me to go and qualify in law. I'm also a retired judicial office holder. I used to sit on tribunals in the Social Security Chamber of HMSC, that is His Majesty, not Her Majesty, His Majesty's Court and Tribunal Service. That's really is a brief introduction to who I am. Now, the person that I think influenced me the most was my grandmother.
Ooh, okay.
I lived with her from 1955 to 1960. And it was because of her, or a promise that I made to her, that I became a doctor.
Oh, wow.
Even though at school, I was better at, art subjects.
Okay.
Not really science as such. But because I'd made promise to her that I was going to be a doctor, I was about 7 years old. I'd made this promise that I was going to be a doctor. And I kept my promise. The second promise I haven't kept, actually, to be honest. Because the second promise was that I was going to build her a hospital.
Oh, okay. You still have time. You still have time.
Well, I don't know about that. So that's me in general. The only other thing I would say, because I don't want anybody to mistake me for anything else, I'm a Yoruba nationalist. I'm a Yoruba traditionalist. I'm also a Yoruba monarchist. So right. I don't want anybody to mistake me for anything else. Okay. So basically, that's who I am.
That's very clear. That is very clear. And I can see that you've strove to achieve high academic performance. Is that as a result of your urging from your parents, or is that just simply just you? Tell me, where did you get that urge for higher academic performance?
Okay, my parents were teachers.
Ah, okay. Yes, I understand.
Okay. In fact, my father has a BA of the University of London. And when Awolowo introduced free primary education to Western region,
yes,
my father was asked to set up the teacher training college at Ibadan, the very first one at Ibadan. And when he set up the teacher training college, there were no textbooks. So he wrote the textbooks for the teachers.
Oh, wow.
So he wrote, he wrote about geography, history, mathematics, the things that the teachers were are being taught, my father actually wrote the text for them because there were no textbooks. Uh, uh, so I've, if you like, lived in an environment of teaching. And then
Yes.
when I was born, my mother gave up teaching, but set up a bookshop.
Oh, gosh.
Uh,
Yes, yes. I
so,
understand. I
so,
understand
so,
now.
so although my mother gave up teaching,
Mhm.
she then went into, she had a bookstore. I mean, my mother used to import sporting goods from India and Pakistan in the 50s.
Mm-hmm. Look at that. Look at that. Wow.
You know,
Immense pride for your mother.
so that's
Immense
basically, I mean,
pride for your mother.
you know,
Yes, yes, yes. I
she's still
understand,
alive.
Peter.
She's going to be 99 this year.
Oh, please extend our best wishes to her. Yes, and I look forward to her
I
century.
should do so.
We need to, if she, no, when she reaches the century, I'd love to speak with her directly here on the Motivator Show.
I can tell you that she's as bright as a button.
I'm sure she is.
She's as bright as a button.
I look forward to that. I'm going to hold you to that one. Okay, I'm going to hold you to that one because we need to speak to those who have who are our forerunners, who have set the foundation for us to achieve. You know, and that first knowledge you're
That's right.
exhibiting, okay, it typically comes from your family settings or the urging from those around you. Okay, which is why I wanted to focus that for a few minutes. And I noticed that's a characteristic amongst many Yoruba people I encounter. Yep.
We seem to have. I'm trying to choose my words here. We seem to have
Yes.
something in our DNA that has to do with education.
Yes. Yes.
We Yorubas seem to have this urge to learn. I don't know why. And we also have an urge to travel. For example, my grandfather lived and died in Ghana.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Even though we have no idea now exactly where,
Why?
and we have no idea how many relatives we have in Ghana. I also have relatives in Sierra Leone.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, in fact, in 1973, I went to Sierra Leone and met some of them.
And how were they?
So fine, they're fine. They're still there. Some of them are still there. So so the Yorubas generally, we value education. I think is the modern word. We value education. We also value travel. We are like itinerants. You know, we travel everywhere. We travel everywhere.
It is true. There's definitely some special qualities as I completed my research in preparation for this podcast about the Yoruba people. The culture is intact. And we're going to get to that later on in this podcast. I want to address that. But I just want to create some context for this interview and to help the people to better understand the Yoruba people. And my research suggests that, of course, in Yorubaland, there are it's got a very long history, okay? There are bones there, more than 130,000 years old, have been found in Yorubaland, yeah? Okay. And of course, it is curious, and I need to ask this question. Why is the city of, I believe you pronounce it Efe, considered the starting point for the Yoruba people? Why is it considered the starting point? Your place of origin, as it were. Please explain.
Okay. Now, what I'm about to tell you is not what I read in the books. What I'm about to tell you is what I was told by my grandmother. So, who was told, generations back. This is not something. This is not something read in the books. The story was that at the beginning of time, the earth was covered with water.
Yes.
Omi.
The water world.
And there was also the sky. Orun.
Okay.
And what happened was that Obatala came down from the sky with sand, which he then spread on the water. And that was how land began. And it began at Ile-Ife. And the story had to be authentic because Ife is not located on a flood plain. So you couldn't say, oh, well, there was flood everywhere anyway, and therefore the people were bound to say it was water world. Ife is not on a flood plain. And the other thing to know is that this Yoruba story of the origin of the earth has been confirmed by science. So this is not something that's made up or whatever. It's been confirmed by science. So we Yoruba, we originate from Ile-Ife. So that's our spiritual home.
Right. Olodumare, Adodua, created the world. He also became the ancestor of the first divine king of the Yoruba, while Obatala is believed to have created the first Yoruba people out of clay. The meaning of the word Ife in Yoruba is expansion. El-Ife is therefore a reference to the myth of origin as the land of expansion. The word Ele is pronounced in the modern Yoruba language means house or home, which would make the name of the city means the home of expansion.
Any of your audience happen to visit Nigeria, they could go to Ife and confirm what I've just said. That at Ife today, there is a place where the chain that Obatala climbed down from the sky is there.
Oh, wow.
Now, I don't know if you want me to continue because the importance of this story is the Yoruba concept of what you would call nation.
Okay.
Orile-Ede. All right? So Yoruba land is Orile-Ede Yoruba. That is a land that is exclusive. A land that is exclusive to Yoruba speaking peoples. That's Orile-Ede. And also the fact that all the people who tell us we have come from Mecca, we have come from Egypt, they're talking absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. We have been peoples of Yorubaland from time immemorial. Yes. We didn't come from anywhere else.
I understand that, and
we originated in Yorubaland.
I understand, and I just want you, if I may, just to give a little more explanation, because you mentioned Obatala, and I recognise Obatala, that's right. And I also recognise as part of my research and we have this most certainly in the Caribbean and most certainly in parts of the Americas and Brazil, the Orishas, an understanding of the Orishas. Can you just for a few moments here, just explain how the Orishas, where they fit into the memory, the culture and traditions of the Yoruba people?
Okay, I'm glad you asked me that because I was going to that anyway.
Okay.
That the importance of knowing that we originated from one spot, from one center, is that we are mono-ethnic.
Yeah.
Did you understand that? The Yoruba are entirely mono-ethnic. We are pure.
Explain that. Right. Okay.
There's no mixture with anybody else. We were absolutely pure. And we are located in Yorubaland, which is enclosed by natural barriers. You have the River Niger in the north, the River Niger in the east, the Atlantic Ocean in the south, and what is now the Benin Republic. But before the Benin Republic existed, we were all along the coast of West
Yes.
Africa.
Yes.
And do you know how I know that? Because the Berbers of Morocco. If you follow the West African coast all the way from Morocco, all the way down,
Mm-hmm.
they were in contact with the Yoruba in the 12th century.
Right.
And they wrote about the Yoruba in the 12th. So we'd been in contact with the Berbers
Mm-hmm.
a long time ago, and they wrote about the existence of the Yoruba people.
Right. Okay.
Now, some people will tell you, oh, they came from Mali. Absolute rubbish. Our contact with, in inverted commas, Arabs didn't come from the north.
Mm-hmm.
It came along the western coast of Africa.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Now, the Berbers of Morocco, they no longer call themselves Berbers. They regard themselves as Arabs, but they are not Arabs. They're a mixture of Africans and Spaniards.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they are.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They're a mixed race,
Yes.
but they claim themselves to be Arab. Now, I'm now going to come to what you are saying. So we are monoethnic. That means we have our own distinctive custom and tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely distinctive. Whether in the way we dress, in our religion, in our language, and a variety of other things. I will now talk about the Orisa. The Orishas are deities. They're like heroes of the past.
Yes.
Even though my family is Christian, but actually on my mother's side is the Ogun deity. Because they were blacksmiths.
Yes.
Ogun is spelled O-G-U-N.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because my mother's family were blacksmiths.
Mm-hmm.
So the deity of the blacksmiths is Ogun. And if you go to my family compound today in Ibadan, in Kudeti Ibadan, you will see the stone that represents Ogun there.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is interesting because
I've known it since I was a child. It is still there.
Yes.
And then
would you mind
on my father's side,
go ahead. Yes.
Bro,
yes.
On my father's side is Omi. That's water.
Right.
Again, it's a deity. You know, people who are heroes in the past and who are being venerated by the present. Mm-hmm. So when you hear Shango, Ogu, Yemoja, Oya, and so on and so forth, these are deities, if you like, people that have been heroes that are venerated.
Thank you.
But now, with the advent of, when the Europeans came, when the British came, they then turned them into gods. They were not gods. They were venerated. They were deities that we venerated. We didn't worship them. So that's the story of the Orisha. It is also important, I think, at this stage that we talk about Ifa. I don't know if you've ever heard of Ifa.
I most certainly have as part of my research, and it is I focus on this in our intro video. Can I, before you go to Ifa, just for the benefit of the audience, what I want to do is play a shortened version of the intro video, which gives light and explains the Orishas. It's only about 2 to 3 minutes. Just pause. We just want to just play it, just for the benefit of the audience. Okay, here we go. I just want to make sure it's understood. Okay, here we go. And let me now bring up on the main screen. 1 second. There we go. Bring it up on the main screen. 1 second. There we go. Olodumare. The Orishas are divine beings in Yoruba religion, each associated with specific elements of nature, human qualities and various aspects of life. These deities are central to the Yoruba pantheons and play an essential role in Yoruba spiritual practices. What follows is a brief description of some of the most well-known Orishas, their attributes and their significance.
You can read about Ifa and Orisa in my book. I wrote a book on Yoruba medicine, which was published on Amazon. You can read what I'm talking about the Orisa deity, and I particularly want to talk about Ifa as well. There is Ifa and there is Odu, ODU, and there is Ifa, IFA, and it is very, very common for these two, if it matters or issues, to be conflated. They are completely different.
The great Yoruba people.
Completely different. The Odu is a compendium. It's a literary corpus of 256 chapters. Now, because it was impossible for people to memorize everything in those 256 chapters, because the Yorubas didn't write. So you had to commit things to memory. And because it was impossible for a human to commit all the contents of the 256 chapters to memory, Yoruba invented Ifa. Ifa was the key to the Odu. So I compare Ifa to your iPad. Ifa actually has a tablet in which you then throw, if you like, stones, from which you can then determine what is in whatever box, whatever chapter of the Odu. So there are two completely different things, the Ifa and the Odu. And I compare the Odu in its intent to the Bible, to the Jewish Bible, and to the Islamic Quran. They have exactly the same intent. It's a book. So the Odu is a book of knowledge. It so happens that the people who have access to that knowledge are those who can practice Ifa, the Babalawo. And they are called Babalawo because Babalawo, the Awo, is the tablet I'm talking about, the iPad.
Yes.
That's why they are called Babalawo. The master who has the tablet. That's what Babalawo means.
Yes. Well, and this has survived.
Because of Christianization, everything has been distorted. Go on, I'm listening.
No, it is well. It's the fact that this has survived the intrusions that lasted hundreds of years, which I'm fascinated by. It's how you managed to retain this, your culture and traditions. I'm
as we go along, I will come to all that. I will come to the explanation why the Yoruba culture has persisted in the Americas. There is no other African culture that has persisted in the Americas. Of all the slaves, only the Yoruba culture has persisted in the Americas. And the best time to see it is if you had the 31st of December, the New Year's Eve in Rio, for example, which I've had the opportunity, and you see how people go into the sea with candles to Yemaja. These are Christians. These are Catholics, by the way. They go into the water with candles, send it into the sea, talking to Yemaja. And these are people who have never been to Yorubaland before.
That's right. Yeah, it's true.
And then there's a carnival, that people in Brazil and in the Caribbean, they enjoy, even now in London.
Yes.
And this has come from the Egungun festival.
Yes.
To those of your audience who are not Yoruba, it's spelled Agungun. So you can Google it.
Yes.
Now, there are many interpretations of what Egungun is. But we'll leave that aside. The fact of the matter is that it is reproduced. It is reproduced in the New World, in the Americas, where our forefathers were taken.
Okay.
So not only did they left here, well, Yorubaland, Orile de Yoruba, and still kept their tradition.
Yes.
It's absolutely amazing.
I agree.
That's one other thing that I think I should quickly talk about before we move on to something else.
Okay.
The Yorubas were urban dwellers. The Yorubas were obsessive urban dwellers. They were not just urban dwellers. They were obsessive urban dwellers. And because they were urban dwellers, they had to create a constitution. Do you understand? Do you understand that?
I do. Yes. Continue. Yes.
Because they were urban dwellers, they had to create a constitution, an unwritten. The British Constitution is unwritten, just like Yoruba Constitution.
Yes.
And I call the Yoruba Constitution the Constitutional Oba. Oba is spelled OBA.
Yes.
Constitutional Oba. What this means is that for the governance of an urban settlement, small or great, there's an Oba at the top.
Yes.
And there is a council of nobilities, Igbimo.
Right.
Those two governed the urban center. And that system of governance is repeated every single dwelling place in Yorubaland till today. In spite of the fact that the British ruled us for 46 years, and then Nigeria for another 65, that system of governance has persisted. It has not changed at all. And I, as an Oloye, I am entitled to sit in that council of elders.
Right. Yes.
So we, I don't want to sound big-headed, because sometimes when I say this, it sounds as if I'm being big-headed. We Yorubas are unique in so many ways.
Yeah.
And we will come to some of it, as you ask questions.
Okay. I will do so. And thank you for that. That explanation has provided some context. Yep, it provided some context for us. There's a slight delay on our reception at the moment, but I'm sure we'll overcome that shortly. It is well.
That's right.
But you have provided some context, and I believe that has helped many of the audience to better understand the Yoruba people and their influence both across the continent and across the diaspora. And indeed, we are practicing Yoruba culture and traditions and have forgotten the origins of our culture and traditions. Okay, but you from Yorubaland can go to Jamaica or Trinidad, go to Brazil or United States, and see yourselves reflected both in image and in practice. It is astonishing. Because I know as a child, I recognized the Orishas, for example, and their strengths that they provided to us. It was our connection with our ancestors, so that we have some mental and spiritual basis from which to find ourselves. Otherwise, we would have been both physically and mentally crushed. Okay? So thank you for holding true. Thank you for holding true.
Exactly.
I might, at this point, just for the benefit of the audience, I just want to go over the Orishas, because believe it or not, Doctor, there are many hundreds of millions of us out here in the diaspora who recognize the Orishas and the important role they play to secure our psychology. Can you imagine being away from the source? Yeah, for centuries. Okay. And not having the benefit of being able to practice your culture and tradition openly, okay? How mentally, indeed physically, debilitating it would have been for you if you could not practice your own culture and tradition openly. And for many in the diaspora, this was practiced in secret. And if you were caught, the British, the German, the French, the Spanish, the Portuguese would have killed you or cascated you and
That's right.
dehumanized you in public
That's right.
in order to
That's right.
deter you from practicing your own culture and tradition. So often it was practiced in secret. You know, you had
Do you know how they did it?
Explain, please explain.
In places like Cuba and Brazil, they did it by drumming.
That's right. Yes, that's right. Yes, that's right. But even there,
They
particularly in
used
Jamaica,
the drums to communicate with you. They used drum, and in Trinidad, they used the what do you call that pan? What do you call it? The pan.
The steel pan. Yes.
The steel drum. Yeah.
Yes.
Those are these things. You know, people look at them now as musical instruments, but in fact, people did not realize the origin that these instruments were used as means of communication.
That's right.
Because in Yorubaland, this is one of the things, part of the things that the Yorubas invented, the drum.
Yes.
The talking drum.
Yes.
We talked to each other using the drum. So when they were taken to the Americas, they didn't lose that ability. They communicated with each other using the drum. And where the British had or the French had discovered that they were using the drum to communicate, they then started using the steel pan.
This is true.
So if you couldn't, if they stopped you from using the drum, and they say this, that, and the other, then you switch to something else.
Yes, that's right.
And although today we look at these things as musical to enjoy, which is fine, but it is also important for us to know the root of these things.
Thank you so much.
I mean, this is one of the things why it is. Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. No, this is well, because as I said, the connection is clear, but there are tens of millions of diasporans, your cousins overseas, who have forgotten where it came from. They simply know that this is us. Right. This is who we are, okay? Why the Orishas were so important. I am assuring you, the Orishas were so important. I want to just play this. This is a short excerpt for the Orishas, just for the benefit of the audience.
That's fine.
We're all connecting with you now. I'm assuring you, look at the messages I'm receiving. They're connecting with you. They're understanding. They're appreciating you. We appreciated you. I'm going to play this now. If we can get it up on the spiritual practices. What follows is a brief description of some of the most well-known Orishas, their attributes and their significance. Olodumare, Eshu the messenger, is crucial in the Yoruba pantheon, as every ritual or sacrifice must honor him to ensure that communication with other Orishas is clear. He is seen as a playful but wise and protective. Ogun, the god of iron, war and labor, represents the transformative power of labor and industry. He is revered by people who work with metal and is often invoked for strength, protection, and success in battle or challenging task. Olodumare, Shango, the god of thunder, fire, and justice, represents power, authority, and leadership. He is a symbol of righteous rule and justice. His energy is invoked for protection, strength, and leadership, and to call down the divine justice in times of injustice. Yemoja, the mother of all Orishas, goddess of Ogun, is revered for her maternal qualities and is a goddess of abundance and prosperity. She represents creativity, life, protection of families and communities. Olodumare, Oshun, the goddess of love, beauty and rivers, is the goddess of love and wealth. She is invoked for matters related to love, fertility and financial success. She is considered the most compassionate of the Orishas, offering emotional and spiritual support. Obatala, the Orisha of purity, wisdom, and justice, is the Orishas of clarity and truth. He is invoked for guidance in difficult situations and for matters relating to fairness, peace, and ethical leadership. Olodumare, Oya, the goddess of storms, wind, and transformation. She represents the power of change and transformation. She is invoked during times of great upheaval or when there is a need for personal or societal transformation. Orunmila, the Orisa of wisdom, knowledge, and divination, is considered the custodian of wisdom and is highly revered by the practitioners of Ifa divination. She helps guide people towards the right decision and understanding of their destinies. A journey through the great Yoruba kingdom, the worship of Orishas, the gods and goddesses, the place where life and civilization began according to
I'm going to pause that now. Sorry, I'm enjoying it too much.
Was the first
I was going to go on to note the three. In fact, let me just play this section because it's going to be important again, further context for the audience. Because I know the audience respond to steady rhythmic music that settles and calms the mind, so it is ready to receive information. And upon receiving empowering information, thereafter, they are better people. So I'm just going to play this last 30 seconds, which describe key leader structures in the culture. Okay, if I may, just for the benefit of the audience, this will help.
Journey through the great Yoruba kingdoms, the Ife kingdom, the spiritual and mythical origins of the Yoruba people. It is the important religious center for the worship of Orishas, the gods and goddesses. The place where life and civilization began according to Yoruba mythology. Ife was the first and most revered Yoruba kingdom, ruled by the Oni Ife, who is considered the spiritual leader of the Yoruba people. The Oni is seen as a direct descendant of Aduduwa, the legendary founder of the Yoruba civilization. The current Uni of Ife is Oba Adeyemi Etan Ogunwusi Oja II. The great Yoruba kingdoms. The Oyo Kingdom. A Yoruba empire, it was one of the West Africa's greatest civilizations. Its political systems, military strengths, and cultural impact made it a dominant force for centuries. Even today, the traditions of Oyo influence Yoruba leadership, governance, and religion. Great Yoruba Kingdom. Ijebu Kingdom. The Ijebu Kingdom is one of the most culturally vibrant in Yoruba history, with its Ojun Aba festival, powerful Awanaje kings, and deep-rooted traditions. The Ijebu people continue to play a major role in Yoruba and Nigerian society.
Yoruba, yes, you're saying.
I'm glad I want to talk about him.
Oh, you do. Let me just play a little bit of him, and then because he's a genius. One of these geniuses. It blew my mind. Anyway. Let me just play it on. Let me play this on because you appreciate him. You all appreciate.
You have no idea until I tell you what I will tell you about him.
Yoruba standard orthography, or modern Yoruba writing systems. Samuel Ajayi Grover, born 1805, passed 1891, was a Yoruba linguist and the first African Anglican bishop in West Africa. He was born in Osogun, which is now Oyo State in Nigeria. Crowther was a Yoruba speaker and translated the Bible and other works into his native language. He was ahead of his time. These facts alone deserve celebration. His Bible translation was also remarkably effective, and his approach to the study and practice of mission was way ahead of his time. Widely known as a gentle, modest man, Samuel Crowther was responsible for successfully opening up the Yoruba kingdom to the gospel as a missionary bishop for the Church Mission Society. He employed a compelling dialogue approach, using local languages and scriptures. Indeed, he translated the entire Bible into Yoruba, spoken mainly in West Africa, including Crowther's home in what is now Nigeria. Yoruba was, after all, his mother tongue. Yoruba Standard Orthography, or modern Yoruba writing systems. Key features of Yoruba written format, or standard orthography. The use of diacritical marks or accents for tone differentiation. Yoruba is a tonal language, meaning the tone of a word changes its meanings. The uses of Latin script with additional letters. Yoruba writing follows a structured system of tones and special letters and contractions to maintain clarity and accuracy. Proper use of tone marks is critical to avoid changing meanings. A genius of his time, a remarkable Yoruba man, a genius. Please tell us more about him.
Yes,
tell us more.
Yes, I actually don't think that most people understand the intellectual caliber of Ajayi Crowther.
Indeed.
If he had been white, he would have been the Archbishop of West Africa.
Yes.
Remember, he was the vicar at Archway. What's that place called again? Archway in London. There's a church where he was vicar. I've forgotten the name of the church, but if it comes to me, I'll what Ajayi Crowther did was to show that Yoruba language had a distinctive grammar and structure. I know you're talking about we translated this. He had to have started from zero.
Yes.
He had to have created a distinctive grammar for Yoruba language and a distinctive structure for Yoruba language before he could do the translation.
Yes.
Ajayi Crowther was the one who pointed out that the Yoruba people had a system of word construction, that we didn't just blot out words, that the Yorubas had a system that they used to construct words. And I'm going to construct a word as we speak here.
All right.
The base of every word is a verb. That verb is made up of a consonant and a vowel. So, for example, to create, you put a D and an A, a D and an A. So, da, to create.
Okay. Yes.
That's the verb.
Yes.
If you now put a prefix, before the verb, you get a da, the created. Let me explain this again in case the audience who are not you, so they could understand it.
Please,
is that
slowly. No, nice and slowly for us.
Okay. To make a verb, you add a consonant to a vowel.
Yes.
So in the case of to create, the verb to create is D plus A. Da.
Yes. Yes. And now
if you now add a prefix, okay, if you now add a prefix to da, you get a da, the created.
Wow.
Do you understand that?
I do. And what I'm going to do, if I may, I'm going to put it on the screen for them, because we need to do it nice and slowly, because there will be many thousands for whom this is brand new. Okay, and they are going to make inquiries. Let's see if I can get the machine to work as I wish. I'm going to put it on the screen. Let's see if it comes up. It does. Here we go. Here we go. So the use of diacritical marks, which is what you're referring to, for tonal differentiation. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm now talking of before you get to this tonal differentiation. Okay. Right at the base, you have a verb, D plus A, which gives you da.
Yes.
You then add a prefix, E, which gives you Eda, the created.
Yes.
If you add another prefix to that, you get Eleda, E-L-E-D-A, Eleda,
yes,
which is the creator.
Whoa.
Do you see how
yes.
Do you see how the Yorubas create words? Yes. So you got the verb to create, yes. You get the next noun, which is the created, and the next noun, which is the creator. All of them are linked.
Okay.
So we Yorubas don't just pluck. The Yorubas don't just pluck words out of thin air.
Yes.
It is constructed. In other words, and this is the genius.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. This is the genius. Go ahead.
This is the genius. This was the genius of Ajayi Crowther, to recognize that the Yoruba did not pluck words out of thin air. That every word, every noun is built. So you've got from da to create, to Eda the created, to Eleda the creator. And the importance of what Ajayi Crowther did is that the Yoruba word was equivalent to writing. Although the Yorubas did not write, but the way, the structure of their words was writing without a pen.
I understand. Yes. And I want to acknowledge, if I may, I want to acknowledge what you say.
So that your audience can have it.
Yes. Sorry, we've got some slight delay in our communication. I'm not sure it's my end or your end. There's a slight delay. I'm really sorry about that to the audience. So, if I may, I'm going to acknowledge the important role that Samuel Crowther played in translating the spoken language into a written format and embedding in that written format the sophistication that is the Yoruba language. Okay, and it's a language it is well worth for us all to learn, to study, to learn. Okay, and I'll embark on that journey myself. It's been a great pleasure to investigate it. It's been a great pleasure, and I say to the audience, I'm only scraping the very tip of the enormous iceberg that is the Yoruba culture and traditions.
Right.
Okay. What I want to do now, if I may, I now want to focus on the real purpose of this interview, which is, of course, the status of the Yoruba, I'm going to say kingdom for now. Later on, I'll leave you to cough. I'll leave you to correct me, okay? I'm going to leave you to correct me. But before I go into that part, I just want to play that part of the intro video so it places in some context for the audience what it is we're discussing here. Why on earth would the motivator, why on earth would the leader of the Yoruba people here in Britain, Dr. Oni Ola Osula, would say that the Yoruba kingdom or nation was recognized by Britain as being independent, a sovereign state. Okay? Watch this, all of you. I need you all to watch what I'm about to play for you. This is really important. Okay? This is a part of the history you will not see in a British school, or indeed most schools in the Caribbean or the Americas. But this is actual history, which only takes a few minutes to research to identify its authenticity. So watch this and watch keenly. Let me bring it up on the screen, make sure it's all set. Important. This is important. This is important. Alrighty. Important. This is important. This is important. Moving. There we go.
Great Yoruba kingdoms. The 1888 treaty between Britain and the Alaafin of Oyo, signed on behalf of the Yoruba kingdom. In the UK, it is a government that negotiates and signs treaties. Once signed, the document must be scrutinised by Parliament to confirm that the UK agrees to be bound by it. The treaty, which was negotiated for the Crown and signed on the Crown's behalf on the 23rd of July 1888, was ratified by the Crown on the 16th of June 1890. The treaty was negotiated and signed in person by the Alaafin of Oyo on the 23rd of July 1888, was ratified by him on acceptance of the consideration of £35 5 shillings on the 16th of June 1890. It is now British law. Great Yoruba kingdoms. The 1888 treaty between Britain and the Alaafin of Oyo, signed on behalf of the Yoruba kingdom. The 1888 treaty recognized the Yoruba kingdom as a nation equal to Britain in status. What follows are direct quotes from the 1888 treaty between Britain and the Alaafin of Oyo, signed on behalf of the Yoruba kingdom. Direct quotes. Treaty between Adeyemi, Alaafin of Oyo, and head of Yorubaland, and Her Majesty the Queen of Britain and Ireland, July 1888. I, Adeyemi, Alaafin of Oyo, and head of the Yorubaland, the four corners of which are, and have been from time immemorial, known as Igba, Ketu, Yiba, and Oyo, embracing within its area that inhabited by all Yoruba-speaking people, being desirous of entering into and maintaining forever friendly relations with the subject of Her Majesty the Queen of Britain and Ireland, and of developing the resources of Yoruba by means of legitimate trade with the subjects of Her Majesty and those under her protection, or who may thereafter come under her protection, and in gratitude for what the Queen has at so much expense and risk to life done from time to time for my country, have at this day at the city of Oyo, in the presence of witnesses, declared my intention of abiding by the following articles. Great Yoruba kingdoms. The 1888 treaty between Britain and the Alaafin of Oyo, signed on behalf of the Yoruba kingdom. Direct quotation from the treaty. 1. From henceforth there shall be peace and friendship between the subjects of Her Majesty, the Queen, and those under her protection, and the Alaafin of Oyo, the King of Yorubaland, and his people, and all other peoples over whom he has authority and influence. 2. The subjects of the Queen may always trade freely with the people of Oyo and the Yoruba-speaking countries in every article they may wish to buy and sell, in all towns, rivers and creeks, water and markets, and places within territories known as Yoruba. And I, Adeyemi, pledge myself to show no favour and to give no privilege to the traders of other countries, which I do not give or show to those of the Queen. 3. British subjects and others under the Queen's protection are to have the first consideration in all trade transaction with my people. 4. No toll, duties, fees, imposts or charges shall be charged or levied upon the person or property of any British subject or other persons under Her Majesty's protection, other than and beyond that of those which are customary and reasonable, or may from time to time be agreed upon to be levied or charged by the governor of Lagos and myself. Great Yoruba kingdoms, the 1888 treaty between Britain and the Alaafin of Oyo, signed on behalf of the Yoruba kingdom. The 1888 treaty recognized the Yoruba kingdom as a nation equal to Britain in status. Direct quotation from the treaty. 7. It is hereby further agreed that no cession of territory and no other treaty or agreement shall be made by me other than the one I have now made without the full understanding and the consent of the governor for the time being of the said colony of Lagos. In consideration of the faithful observance of the foregoing articles of the agreement, the government of Lagos will make unto me a yearly dash to the value of 200 bags of cowries. But such dash may, upon breach or neglect of all or any one or more of the provisions of the agreement, and at the discretion of the governor of the colony of Lagos, be altogether withdrawn or suspended. This treaty is signed and sealed by Oyo this 23rd day of July, 1888.
So, there you have it, people. There you have it. And this is therefore British law. Britain has agreed to be bound by it. The monarch has received royal assent. The monarch has signed it. It's been scrutinized by Parliament. It is there detailed in the treaty and signed, sealed, and indeed delivered.
Okay.
Yorubaland is a sovereign state. Go ahead, my chief.
That's right. Let me just gloat a bit before I start telling you the importance.
Please gloat.
And the gloating is this:
yes,
that the Alaafin of Oyo, who was not versed in international law, was able to sign a treaty with the British of such fundamental importance that no similar treaty was signed in Africa by anybody.
Indeed.
The only similar treaty that the British signed was with Tonga in 1900, almost word for word as the Oyo Treaty. And yet, the treatment that Tonga had is totally different from the treatment that we had. So that's number one. There are two other things that I think I need to point out before I go on to tell you the importance. Article 4 is very important because it is the dispute resolution provision. What Article 4 says is that if there is a problem with this treaty, it will be sent to arbitration. So that neither party will say I've been cheated or this, that, and because of that provision. The other provision that I would like to draw your attention to before I continue is Article 8, which says, in consideration of the faithful observance of the foregoing articles of agreement, that the Alaafin will be paid. That is a contract. In law, that is a contract. And I tell you why it's a contract. The British asked for this treaty. The Yorubas didn't go to the British to say, I want to sign a treaty. No. On the 22nd or 23rd of May, 1888, the British wrote to the Alaafin asking for this treaty. That in contract law is called an offer. The Alaafin then accepted that offer in the body of the contract that you just read.
Thank you.
So, even apart from looking at the treaty an international instrument, it is also a contract under British law.
Yes. It is. It is. It is. It is.
Okay. So now that I've cleared those two, because I think those two things are important. Article 4, which is dispute resolution, and Article 8, which is about contract.
Right.
There's also something that is missing from this treaty. What is missing is that there is no exit clause.
Oh.
Do you understand that?
Yeah, I do indeed. Yes, yes.
There's
It's signed,
no,
sealed,
there's
forever.
no
Yes.
means by
Yes.
which either party could escape from this treaty.
This is true.
There's no exit clause.
Yes.
You couldn't say, I'm leaving this treaty. This treaty is forever.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
You cannot escape it.
Yeah.
There's no escape clause. So when I told you at the beginning that the Alaafin was a very clever man, you know, people
Another
probably,
genius.
although
Another genius.
people will probably think, oh, well, you know, you're just making it up. That is a wise man.
Yes. Yes.
That goes into a treaty and says, this treaty is for forever. So these are the importance of this. This treaty was so important to Britain that it was published in London.
Yes, it was.
You know the book of treaties where you say we had a treaty with Japan, we have a treaty with China. This treaty is recorded.
Yes, it is.
And it is recorded as a non-session treaty.
Yes, that's right.
That is, the Yorubaland did not, the Alaafin did not give up an inch of Yoruba soil.
Okay. Now, do you
understand that?
I do. Forgive me, your Wi-Fi is kind of unstable at the moment. I'm really sorry. I'm not sure why. So we lose you for a moment.
Oh, yeah.
Come back again. Yeah, it's
My
all right.
apologies.
It's okay. It is well. Don't worry. It is well. But keep going, because you are engaging audience.
So when trying to describe how this treaty is very, very important. It was important to the British because they didn't want the French
That's
to incur into Yorubaland.
That's right. That's right. They're in competition.
So they had to sign this treaty.
Yes, yes. And it's important, if I may, just to point out that Nigeria at the time, it wasn't Nigeria, but at the time, was surrounded by land or territories colonized by France. Okay, you have to the north, of course, Burkina Faso, Mali, Chad. These are all French territory. Gabon, they're all French colonies. Yeah, so we're surrounded
in fact, I mean, they had a little bit of incursion into what is now Sokoto.
Yes.
So it wasn't so the British were desperate.
Yes.
To sign this treaty.
Yes. Right.
And in signing the treaty, the British accepted Yoruba nation.
Yes.
Yorubaland as an equal.
Yes. Yes, I emphasize that in the intro video. I emphasize that there were equal status. Equal status.
Yes. And not just between themselves, under international law.
Correct. It is enforceable.
Okay, so this is not just something that is just between the two of us, whatever we like. No. This was under international law.
Yes.
And the other concept that I want your listeners, your audience to take is the concept of the critical date. When an event occurs on a particular date, that date of occurrence cannot change. I mean, it's like your birthday. You are born on a certain day, it can't change. Because so a critical date is a date when the treaty was signed, which is this ratified, which is the 16th of June 1890. That's the critical date. That date cannot change.
Agreed. Yes.
Anything that occurred after that date cannot affect what was agreed on in the treaty. Do you understand that? Whatever
Absolutely.
development that has happened
Yes.
after that treaty cannot affect the treaty whatsoever. And I'm going to read to you what the British pleaded. What the British pleaded when they had a dispute with France on something called Minquers and Ecros. I think some island, a piece of island between France and Britain. This is what the British said. Said the subsequent practice of parties to a treaty in relation to it cannot affect the meaning of the treaty.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get that?
Yes. I want you to explain what that means.
The subsequent practice of parties to
explain for the audience, not just slowly for the audience. So
let me continue reading and then I'll explain it.
All right.
Events occurring after the critical date cannot operate to alter the position as it stood at that date.
Mm-hmm.
That means the status of Yorubaland as a state under international law solidified on the 16th of June 1890.
Mm-hmm.
That is irreversible.
Yes. Yes.
You cannot change. There is nothing that you can do that can change that recognition of Yorubaland as a country. It cannot be changed.
Mm-hmm.
It is irreversible. So anything that Britain did after 1888, after 1890, is completely irrelevant to the status of Yorubaland as a country. We are not in a court of law here, so I don't have to go into the case law. But there is plenty of case law. And the final thing I want to say, and I will repeat this again, the 1888 Britain-Yoruba Treaty is operational.
Yes,
you and I sit here
today. It's effective today. Yes, yes.
There's no expiry date.
Yes.
So as you and I sit here and we are chatting as friends,
mm-hmm.
the 1888 treaty is operational as we speak.
Yes.
It is a case that you can take to court with confidence.
Mm-hmm.
It's a case that you can take to court with utter confidence to say, look, this is a treaty that Britain and Yorubaland signed in 1888. This is a treaty that they ratified in 1890. This is a treaty which they then paid consideration, that the British government paid consideration for.
There you are. All right. Now then, sir, if I can just...
And therefore, in the eyes of international law...
Yes.
Bro.
Okay, that's all right. There's a slight delay. I'm going to ask you, please, if you could kind of stay still, because you become excited, you see. And as you get excited, the signal wavers. But I understand why.
Sorry.
Trust me, I understand why. Because I'm good for the benefit of the audience, and those of you who are watching this, please do not leave this video without leaving a comment. But I will also, in the edited version of this transmission, insert a link to the treaty itself. The treaty that I've read out partially, I'll give you a link directly to the treaty that was ratified by Parliament, signed on behalf of the monarch. Okay, it was signed and countersigned by the Oyo and the leader of the Yoruba nation. I'm going to use the term now, Yoruba nation at the time. There was no exit clause here. Note what has been stated. There was no exit clause, and therefore it is effective as of today. It's simply required for the Yoruba people to decide that they want to be independent, and they have the force of international law to support that assertion. Praise be.
Exactly.
Praise be.
And
Wow.
let me tell you something else.
Of course, of course.
The Shelburne, the report of Lord Shelburne, the Niger Committee that was set up to sort of conceptualize amalgamation, excluded the Yoruba country. It stated very clearly that the Yoruba country was not under the jurisdiction of Britain.
Oh, right. That's, I must say, that's a detail I didn't pick up on, but I will go look at it. And I know you're correct. I'm going to affirm what you've just said, and I'm going to ensure that's also included in the comments section that relate to the edited version of this transmission. Okay, thank you for Shelburne. Thank you for that.
Very much. Thank you very much.
No, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So, what you've been able to demonstrate that, in fact, the Yoruba people are indeed a sovereign nation. But I know it's now a historical fact that the Yoruba nation is within a nation that we call Nigeria. That is a bit of a quandary now, isn't it? Explain. Now I'm going to ask you
again,
to keep still.
Under international law, it doesn't really matter. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Under international law, it is also the case that Nigeria amalgamation and all that is irrelevant. I mean, we can come to that later on. Okay. But there's one thing that I need to make your audience understand.
All right.
And it is this. The Constitution, the Independence Constitution of Nigeria was written by the British. It was a British Act of Parliament. The Constitution was not written by Nigerians. So that's number one thing to understand. The second thing to understand is that the first time that the Nigerians actually wrote a constitution was in 1963. The Republican Constitution, which was contributed to by 4 regions: the West, the Midwest, the East, and the North. That constitution, that agreement between it was an act of parliament, so there's no question that there was an agreement. Let us accept that although they didn't use the word Yoruba, Igbo, let us just accept that the Western region was Yoruba. Let's just accept that.
Yes.
So there was this, if you like, agreement in 1963, the Republican agreement in 1963. That agreement became null and void on the 15th of January 1966, when there was a coup.
Yes.
That was it. That was the end of the 1963 Constitution. And since 1966, we have not had another agreement between any group of Nigerians to be Nigerians.
If I may ask you this point.
Let me repeat that again.
I've heard you, but before you do that, the 1999 Constitution, which clearly is being disputed by members of Ninas and other Igbo people as being invalid, that was created by the then military rulers. Are you asserting that that Constitution is also invalid?
Oh, yes. When I was the leader of Ilana UK, we went to court on this. So what I'm telling you is not something that I've just suddenly realized. The 1999 Constitution is not a constitution. It was a military decree by General Abdul Salami. It was a military decree that they then converted to constitution. And the reason why they got away with it was because Obasanjo was the first president.
Yes.
Remember, I was military head of state before.
That's right. Yes.
And all that he was doing was just simply continue the military regime. The 1999 Constitution has never been ratified by the people of Nigeria.
It is true.
When Obasanjo took over, when Obasanjo was elected president of Nigeria, there was no constitution. Remember, he was elected in February. The constitution was published in May.
That's right.
So Obasanjo had already become president of Nigeria before the constitution was handed to him.
This is so true. I've had a
It can
regular
only
guest
happen.
here. Sorry, I was
It can only happen in Nigeria,
I was going to say
where
this point.
you
I've had members of the Igbo community here on
you have
the
a
Motivator
government.
show. Sorry, can you?
Yeah, well, I mean, yes, but I mean, this is actually not Igbo or Yoruba or anything. This is just a matter of law.
I agreed.
It's a matter of
If I may
law.
take you
You
forward
cannot
now,
have
if I may take you forward, and we've got that, and I'm going to put further references in the comment section for the edited version of this transmission. So those who are so inclined to do their own due diligence to validate the veracity of the statements being made today can do so, then I'll encourage them to reach out to you thereafter. Okay. What I want to do though is note the traditional leaders. Notwithstanding your comment in regards the 1960 constitution of the approved by British Parliament, written by Britain, admittedly, but the Alaafin at the time signed that constitution to bring into force the state of Nigeria, giving it veracity, giving it weight. Was the Alaafin wrong in doing so?
Okay. What was the status? Again, you've got to go back a bit. What was the status of the Yoruba Oba after 1914? They became like civil servants. That's what they are today as well. They were no longer, if you want to call them rulers before, they were no longer rulers. They weren't ruling anything. They were powerless. They were paid a salary by government, as they are today. So, to be surprised that he signed almost anything, why should you be surprised?
Okay.
They no longer
did. Yes.
Yeah, but they no longer had the power that the Alaafin had in 1888. Oh, by the way, the Alaafin of Oyo, the British assassinated the Alaafin of Oyo in 1895. I just thought I'd throw that in.
Yep, that is true. That's another historical fact.
But the fact of the matter is that since the 1st of January 1914, our constitution had been suspended. The Yoruba constitution was suspended in 1914. And it still remains suspended today. So when any turns up to pretend that he has some power, it's nonsense, because he's paid like a civil servant. Okay, he's a servant of the government.
We've heard
the fact that he has signed the Alaafin signed.
Okay, we've got that message.
Thank you.
I know that the Alaafin's office and others will be listening to this. We want to be polite. But it's okay. It's okay. What I want to do, because I just want to conscious of time, and just so that we get through the key questions I want to put to you. So we've got the context, both the Yoruba people. We've got examples of the genius of the people. And now we're addressing the issue of the status of the Yorubaland, okay? And it's clear that the Yorubaland, under international law, is an independent state, okay? Currently, we're in another state, which now need to be resolved, okay? Now, I understand that this is what you want to do. You've established what is called here in Britain the Yoruba Party in Britain, okay? Now, you establish a party, a political party, which is interesting, okay? But I understand you've created that party with the agreement of Yoruba people here in Britain with a clear intent. Can I ask you to explain the intent behind forming the Yoruba Party of Great Britain? Please go ahead.
Okay. The primary purpose is to provide a voice for the UK Yoruba community.
Okay.
we don't have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows who we are.
Indeed.
Nobody knows that we exist. And therefore, in order to take all these things that we have been discussing forwards, you needed a body that can give voice to the Yoruba people.
Okay. Understood.
That was the purpose of establishing the Yoruba Party in the UK. I think, I can't remember, it's been tagged. I think you may have been the one who tagged it as some kind of social, a social party rather than a political party.
Oh yeah.
But in fact,
description. Yes, go ahead.
but that is not, to me, that is actually not an insult. I didn't take it as an insult, because that is what distinguishes us from the Labour Party, from the Conservative Party.
That's right.
From any other party, in the sense that we are saying we have a group of Yoruba in this diaspora who are voiceless, who are faceless. Yes. We want whatever it is they want to be in the forefront, so that others can see what not just our achievement. For example, the leader of the Conservative Party is Yoruba.
Yes. And the current leader of Nigeria is Yoruba as well. Bola
exactly.
is also Yoruba.
Exactly. Exactly. So this is not just talking about our achievement. That's great. But we are talking of our people, silent majority.
Yes.
And the idea of the political party is to give them a voice.
Okay.
And
I accept that.
And it also gives them legal standing.
Yes.
I think this is very important. Legal standing to go to court.
Yes, if I may, at this point, this is true, because, of course, we now have ample evidence that the treaty, 1888 treaty, has no access clause, and therefore is in effect right now.
Exactly.
Now, you've established a political party. I understand it, and I understand the reason. We've explained the reasons why. Will you now go forward with a judicial review so that the British government acknowledges the 1888 treaty that was signed, sealed, and delivered both by Her Majesty the Queen then, Victoria, and the Alaafin of Oyo at the time, that they both signed on behalf of their respective nations? Will you now go forward with a judicial review to ensure it is recognized by today's British government?
The short answer is yes.
Okay, brilliant.
And right now, what we are hoping, coming to your podcast, me writing on Facebook and on Twitter, going from platform to platform, is that we want people to contact us to enable us to establish a panel of lawyers.
Okay.
Number one, that can help us to articulate what we are talking about, and also a panel of donors, because this is expensive.
Yes.
This is very expensive. And remember, the Yoruba Party is not even 1 year old. So we don't have the money to take to judicial review. That's why we are publicizing things as much as we can, so that we are able to establish a panel of lawyers. One of the things, for example, that I have done is I've asked the Cardiff Law School, where I'm an alumnus, to actually do research on these things for us.
Okay, good.
And I've offered them personally research grant, that if you are able to, if you can get people to investigate this for us, I will stand to pay all their expenses.
Oh wow. Okay. Let me put it on the screen.
And the importance of this is very much when the Kenyans took the British government to court.
Yes.
They were able to win because there were 3 academics, 3 professors who investigated their case. So that by the time the case came to court, The court knew exactly what the facts are, even though this thing had happened years and years ago. So this is the sort of thing we are trying to do. We are looking for lawyers. If you are interested in administrative law, get in touch so that we can assemble a panel of lawyers. I have done the research. I've written a sort of thing that they can read and then further investigate themselves. And the panel can then come together and give their assessment and their feasibility. We also need a panel of donors, people that we can turn to at any time to say, look, we want to go to court tomorrow. Can you give us £50,000? Or can you give us 100,000 pounds or whatever?
Yes.
So those are the two things that we are trying to establish: a panel of lawyers and a panel of donors. We think that we have a case. We think we have a case, and that we can be successful with judicial review. But this is expensive. There is an alternative also, which again the panel of lawyers can tell us, is the Permanent Court of Arbitration at The Hague.
Yes.
We can go to them as well. I've already written to them to ask for what can we do to access their services.
Yes. Right. Good. I'm very pleased to hear that. I've placed on the screen.
So that's another. That's it. So apart from judicial review, that's correct. And you know, I hope that people will contact us. And I know people might say, well, you know, it's a small party. They've only just started.
If I may,
Yeah.
this is it's not a question of the size of the party. The rationale for establishing is sound. Okay, you want a voice, and you must want to ensure that you have standing to enforce the law. The law. On the screen, those of you who are interested and want to reach out and speak directly to the good doctor here, and he's spoken with eloquence and determination on behalf of his people. And to be clear, the 1888 treaty between Britain and the Alaafin of Oyo, signed on behalf of the Yoruba kingdom. The 1888 treaty recognized the Yoruba kingdom, or indeed the Yoruba nation, as a nation equal to Britain in status. Now, to join the campaign to enforce the 1888 treaty, contact the Yoruba Party UK. Email address, it's info@yorubapartyuk.org. And their website address, it's www.yorubapartyuk.org. Okay, leave it on the screen for a little while longer for those of you who are slow writers to write it down. I will note these details on YouTube in the comment section. Please do not leave YouTube unless you leave a comment or a reaction. It's very important. Okay, so we can spread the word. They are. That's important. So we've now, I'm not going to say we've started here, but it most probably started prior, but we will contribute to raising that wave, in your direction. Okay. And I believe that the evidence is pretty robust. I'm not a legal person, but I believe it's pretty robust. I spent a good 3 or 4 days in terms of hours studying this prior to this interview, okay, to ensure that I do not embarrass myself. You see, I have a reputation to maintain, that if I utter words, it's because I've resolved and I'm convinced that these words are correct, and there's evidential basis upon which to make these statements. And I can assert to you, and I've reviewed all particulars in relation to the 1888 treaty between the Yoruba kingdom, Yoruba nation, and Great Britain. And I've found that the treaty is valid. There is no exit clause, okay? It is valid and is therefore effective as of today. And as a good doctor described, what happens subsequently means nothing because the treaty remains in force. It's now up to the Yoruba people to claim their rights for independence. Praise John, Rastafari. Oh yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I now can stand by that statement because I've been able to validate and speak to others to ensure that the treaty, as noted, is valid. It's gone through all the correct processes to ensure it's now enforceable in British law.
Thank you.
Quite astonishing. Yep, quite astonishing. It is quite astonishing. I'm immensely proud of you. And what I need to do here is note that in my interview video, I only give a scrape in the very surface of the incredible people who are the Yoruba people, their culture, tradition. There's much more for us all to learn. So I want to encourage those who are, he did say it, a Yoruba nationalist, but I want a Yoruba culturalist who understands the culture, who can speak about the culture with an emotion and a desire that really ensure that others match you with that enthusiasm. I have to say, each time I review the people that it's the Yoruba people, I'm enthralled and I'm astonished the connection that I have with you, just by my own culture and tradition. It was astonishing, as you say. You described it. You've been to the Caribbean, you know, and you see a reflection of yourself. You can see the practices, but they don't know where it came from, because it's hundreds of years now. It's for those traditional leaders to bridge the gap. The information gap. I believe that's where the problem lies. The traditional leaders in Africa, but most certainly across West Africa, need to come to diaspora, and teach us, remind us of who we are and the greatness of our history, of our cultures and tradition. Praise be, praise be. Oh my gosh, that was something else. My heart is beating, and again, another interview where my heart is beating with an intensity. I'm now seeking to control myself. This is powerful, truly powerful. What would be your message to the people of the diaspora who unknowingly, in many cases, are practicing Yoruba culture and tradition? What would you say to them?
Thank you. One of my hopes, and I'm getting on in age now, one of my hopes is that we will have a Yorubaland to which our blood brothers and sisters can come to anytime they want, because it is their home.
Yes. Oh, please, can I just give you a clap to that? I need to give you a loud clap. I need to clap this. We need more of this. That's what we need. We need more of this. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please continue. Continue. Continue.
We are only, there are people who think that the way to establish our home is by violence. I don't believe in it. I'm a pacifist. And I'm a pacifist because when I was 19, I went with the Red Cross to Biafra to feed refugees.
Okay. Yes.
And the destruction that I saw made me realize that war is futile.
Yes.
That war is just destructive. So I'm a pacifist. And I've been a pacifist since I was 19, 20. And I owe no apologies for that. The second thing that I've realized with time, especially when I became the leader of Ilana UK a couple of years or so ago, is that there is no mechanism for negotiating. There's no political avenue available to us. What is available to us is the law courts. Because once the law has decided that this treaty exists and is live,
yes,
then the British government is obliged.
Yes.
The British government is obliged to follow it. So in my humble submission, this is the avenue we need to pursue.
Yes.
And we need to pursue it quickly.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And I believe that once we extricate Yorubaland from Nigeria, we will be able to establish the black race as not subservient to all these other people.
Indeed. Indeed. Indeed.
And that to me, and there are so many, I mean, just to throw in an example, the development of the vaccine that you hear about today came from Yorubaland.
Oh, explain.
Onesimus, who was a slave, was the one who told
Yes.
the
Yes.
Americans.
Yes. Yes. Oh, your connection.
That
We've lost you
you
from.
can
You must
prevent
forgive me.
smallpox
Forgive me,
by
doctor.
vaccination.
We lost you for a moment. You just.
Oh, have you got me back again?
Yes, we're back again now.
Okay.
You said his name, and then we lost you for a moment.
Yeah.
Please just repeat what you were saying.
Onesimus. His name is Onesimus.
Mm-hmm.
He was the one who, in fact, I think they call him one of the Bostonians
Uh-huh.
of all times. He's a Bostonian of all times. His name is Onesimus.
Mm-hmm.
He was the one who introduced TB vaccination,
Mm-hmm.
smallpox vaccination, really.
Yes.
America, where vaccination then, of course, took off. And, although today everybody thinks that Jenner invented smallpox vaccine, we've been practicing vaccination for smallpox from time immemorial.
Say that again, my doctor. No, doctor, say that again, because it's so important. Because those who've been with anglicized mind, who've received the propaganda that has been propagated for generations. Now say it again. What has our ancestors been doing? Say again, please.
We invented smallpox vaccination.
There you go.
And this is from time immemorial. We knew, the Yorubas knew, that the way to prevent smallpox is to inoculate with the pus of somebody who had smallpox.
Yes, yes, yes.
So this has been that's why Shakwana, that is smallpox, is one of the Orishas.
Mm-hmm.
Shakwana.
Powerful. Yes, powerful. Your signal's still coming in and out. So
oh, sorry. I don't know why he's doing that.
Don't worry. It's these interesting issues here. It is well.
I don't know why.
What you are highlighting,
but there are a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes. There are a lot of things, but I think our first job is to really enforce this treaty. Yes. I think that is our first job. I think our ancestors would be proud of us to do this for them.
Agreed.
Because they did it for us.
Yes. I think you're right. And I'll just put up again, for the benefit of the audience, contact details for yourself and the Yoruba Party is established so that they have standing. They will go for judicial review, but in order to do so, they need the resources, both financial and technical support to do so. It is British law they want enforced to recognise Yorubaland as a nation equal to Britain, as is the outcome of the 1888 treaty between Yorubaland and Britain. Okay, there you are. Okay, it is clear. Details on the screen. The email address is info@yorubapartyuk.org. Website address is www.yorubapartyuk.org. There you are. I have to say,
thank you.
You have been a tremendous interviewee. You provided information which I know has inspired so many here, and I know there are many who want to question. But the robustness of the evidence, as I said, I'll put it in the the comments for those of you on YouTube. We're there, so you can scrutinize it as I have. I've had more than enough time to scrutinize it, and I do not make statements lightly. Right. My reputation is worth a great deal, and therefore I'm careful with statements that I make in public. But this one I can make with absolute confidence because it's been approved, scrutinized by Parliament. It's in the Register of Treaties. It is law between Great Britain and the Yoruba nation. Okay. I want to say this to you. I just want to say this to you. I want to recognize you. I'm going to give you a big roaring applause because this is going to be very important. I want to recognize you. I want to recognize you for all the work that you engaged in. I want to recognize and acknowledge you. There you are. You see all the lights coming up now. You see more than lights. You see more than fireworks. The balloons are going to come up. There you are, more balloons. My thumbs are up, recognizing you. I want even more applauding. I want to recognize you. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And long may you continue your great work.
Thank you.
And please, we want you to remain healthy, okay? Because we want to keep talking to you. May get you back, and you and other Yoruba people back here. We want to discuss the Yoruba culture and tradition, and also how we progress this campaign to have Yorubaland recognized, as it is in British law already, an independent nation under international law. Praise be.
Thank you. Thank you.
I've held you here for long enough. I want you to rest. Get plenty of rest, okay? I want you to rest because we have work to do.
Thank you.
Praise be to you.
Yes.
Praise be. Give my regards to your
very
wife
much
and your family.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And same to you. Thank you, my friend.
My pleasure. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Okay.